Hello friends, my name is xyeLz, and today we're going to be taking a little trip down to the Star Fort. It's so peaceful in Rust in the morning, so calm and serene. You just never know what a beautiful day like this has to offer. Gather some stone, hit some trees, make friends with naked people. But one thing is for sure, there's always someone lurking on the other side of the map, ready to ruin your day.
Folks, this is the story of that ruined day. A small team of 6 members had learned about the Star Fort's whereabouts and were ready to attempt an attack. The raiders set out on foot with what they believed to be enough rockets and weaponry to take down the Star Fort. Their travels lasted throughout the day and into the night. For a trip this long, it's always risky traveling with a lot of rockets. But this isn't just any team. This is an elite crew of seasoned veterans who know what their mission is and will do whatever they can to carry it out.
What started off as a one-clan army soon turned into an alliance of clans ready to take on the Star Fort. Now with over 10 members, the Alliance begins constructing a raid tower on the side of the mountain, using the night as their cover. They also put down 4 campfires, for some reason. Could they be taunting the enemy?
The raiders prepare overnight. Their uniforms now match so that they can easily determine who is an enemy. They fully upgraded their raid base to armored, which makes this a safe place to store sleeping bags, rockets, explosives, and weaponry. They were also smart enough to keep their raid base far away from the Star Fort so that the defenders can't counterattack their raid.
Now aware of the impending battle, the defenders prepare to protect their homeland. But the raiders continue to push forward. They very intelligently build large stone walls as a means of protection when up close to the base, unlike this poor soul who is the first casualty of the battle.
Luckily for him, his teammate arrives with more stone walls and is able to revive him.
And the first rockets have been fired.
The question becomes whether the raiders will have enough rockets and manpower to completely destroy the Star Fort.
Their approach is simple. They attack the front of the base with as many rockets as they can, in an attempt to fend off any defense that may occur from this side of the base. This is going to make it harder for the defenders to use this side of the base as a vantage point. The raiders are also using incendiary rockets, which will even further hinder the defenders' ability to protect the base. The raiders continue to pelt the front of the base with rockets. They also have team members in the hills to ensure that none of the defenders can escape the base. As the raiders stand at the doorstep of the Star Fort, some of the defenders attempt a guerrilla warfare attack on the raiders. Proving to be initially unsuccessful, even the defenders start firing rockets back at the raiders. The battle wages on with over 75 rockets fired in a span of 20 minutes. The raiders have now blown a hole in one of the outer bastions, giving them full access to the Star Fort's courtyard. Despite the enemy's continuous suppression by rockets and their newfound access to the courtyard, the defenders remain determined to protect their home. The raiders have succeeded in blowing numerous holes in the west side of the Star Fort,
Unfortunately for the defenders, this doesn't appear to have affected their maneuverability or access to different rooms. Although the attackers have already spent almost 100 rockets, they are still yet to find any loot. The enemy continues to exhaust their rocket supply on the west side of the base. With rockets still flying, they begin to infiltrate the courtyard. A giant gaping hole in the center of the base is the perfect entry point for the raiders. But they're met with resistance from one diligent defender, and the battle continues. The raiders know that this is their only entryway into the main base, and they need to secure it, or they have no chance of taking down the Star Fort. Outside the base, the defenders continue to try to flank the raiders. If successful, this would push the raiders all the way back to their raid tower on the side of the mountain, giving the defenders the ability to rebuild portions of the base. Unfortunately, the defenders are unsuccessful. The raid carries on. The attackers, still with rockets in hand, continue to make the west side of the base look like Swiss cheese. I do love Swiss cheese. Just look at all that cheesy goodness falling from the base. Without a defender in sight, it makes you wonder who is defending the base. It seems as if the raiders have free range to shoot as many rockets as they want. They've now secured an entryway to the base and continue to move forward with rockets. They blast away at the doors and are met with no resistance from the defenders. With the raiders shuffling rockets into the base, it appears as if the Star Fort's demise is inevitable. The defenders do exist after all. It's starting to get late in Rust, and with nighttime approaching, the defenders will have a big advantage over the raiders. They continue to try and catch them off guard by attacking from many of the different vision points on the base. With many of the raiders now running around in the courtyard, it appears as if they may be running low on rockets or resources. It's possible that some of the raiders have returned to their main base to obtain more rockets, or have gone to their raid base to craft more. They're attempting to return to the Star Fort but are met with suppressing fire. The raiders returning to their base allows the defenders to get into strategic positions outside of the base. They weren't able to do this when the battle began. Because of this, the defenders are able to slow the assault. Since the raiders only have a single raid base, it also gives the defenders an easy vantage point. As nighttime fast approaches, one of the defenders decides to take a nap. The raiders return yet again with rockets, and continue to assault the west side of the base. But what's interesting is that if you take a look around the entire rest of the base, it appears as if it's been untouched. After an hour of fighting and over 200 rockets, the raiders only have a 2x2 entrance into the courtyard. Only 2 of the 6 bastions have been damaged, and only 1 of the 6 entry walls has been breached. Still with rockets, the raiders seem prepared to battle through the night. It's too late to turn back now. Disgusting, dirty bastard.
Both sides are relentless fighting for their cause, as rockets and gunfire continue to light up the night sky. The Raiders have once again secured a perimeter around the outside of the base and continue to control the courtyard. Due to the poor visibility at night, the Raiders' best form of attack is from outside the base, using rockets to continue to weaken the base's defenses. While the defenders try to push out and flank during the night, they're easily overwhelmed by the numbers of the Raiders. The best thing the defenders can do at this point is to try and snipe out the Rocketeers while dodging rockets like a champ. Or not. With nighttime coming to an end, and the Raiders still in control of the courtyard, it's looking like they'll have an easy opportunity to disassemble the base from the inside out. The Raiders have found their way to the center of the base. They begin to slowly demolish it one rocket at a time. Luckily for the defenders, they chose not to keep their loot in the center of the base, knowing that this would be the most targeted area. Instead, they chose to keep their loot in the bastions abutting the base. This means two things. First, the defenders will be able to continue protecting the base as best they can. And second, the Raiders are going to need to destroy every single bastion in order to find loot, making this a very costly and time-consuming raid, especially because the Raiders aren't even aware of it yet, and continue to use their rockets to demolish the center. Will the base be destroyed? Will this guy ever wake up? The rocket count has been marked at over 400 rockets. And after over 3 hours of fighting, our sleeping friend is finally dead. With each Raider being killed, they need to begin that long, slow march from the raid base all the way back to the Star Fort. It's hard to know how many rockets they ended up losing inside the base, but it gives the defenders an opportunity to scoop up those rockets and use them against the Raiders. As the Raiders begin to make their way back to the Star Fort, the defenders strategically align themselves for one final stand. With the west side of the base in shambles, after 400 rockets, can the defenders hold off the Raiders once and for all? The attackers move in as a group, making what appears to be one final push. Unfortunately for them, they meet up with a defending Rocketeer. Seemingly out of rockets, the Raiders retreat back to their raid base, as the defenders continue to suppress them with fire. What once seemed so hopeful in favor of the Raiders quickly turn around as they ran out of rockets. The defenders come out to assess the damage, which is significant. The entire west side of the base is destroyed, from the entryway door to the bastions, as well as a large portion of the center of the base. But even after over 400 rockets, the remaining outer walls, bastions, and doors are left completely untouched, also meaning that the defenders' loot supply remains entirely intact, and the Starfort lives on another day.